Karen unzipped the tent and came face to face with a bear. Furious, merciless, or at least, that's what she thought. You ever have one of those mornings where you step out with your coffee, stretch, breathe in the sweet scent of fresh-cut grass and mild disappointment, and then see something so ridiculous your brain just short-circuits? Yeah. That was me. Last Saturday, I opened my back door, still in pajama pants with tiny lawnmowers on them, and there it is, dead center in my backyard, like a nylon pimple on a perfectly trimmed lawn. A tent. Not a kid's tent. Not a pop-up for grilling. This was a full-blown, four-room, double canopy, off-the-grid survivalist monstrosity. The kind of thing you take to Yellowstone if you're planning to go full hermit and start a squirrel cult. It had guy lines staked into my tomato plants, a folding table wedged beside my shed, and the worst part? A sleeping bag, unzipped, used, snoring, and inside, Karen Whitmore, president of our HOA, tyrant in a pantsuit, French manicure, clipboard addiction, the kind of woman who'd fine a butterfly for unauthorized wing flapping. I blinked 3 times, then took a long sip of coffee, praying the caffeine would erase the hallucination. Nope, still there, curled up like a feral yoga instructor, snoring through her nose like a kazoo with a sinus infection. Now, you've got to understand, Karen doesn't do dirt. She once fined a neighbor for a garden gnome being too whimsical, owns 6 pairs of white linen pants, tried to ban inflatable Christmas decorations because they were emotionally disruptive. And now she was camping in my backyard, like some kind of rogue PDA shaman on a self-care retreat. I didn't even know where to start. So I did what any Southern man with questionable judgment would do. I snapped a photo and texted Carl from next door. Help! 10 seconds later, he replied, "What in the Cracker Barrel fever dream is happening?" Exactly. I'm still trying to process the scene when the tent flap zips open, and out pops Karen's head. Hair in foam rollers, silk mask pushed up like a sun visor, and that smug smile she usually saves for issuing citations. "Oh, hi, Dave." She chirps like we're catching up at a family reunion. "Didn't mean to surprise you, Karen." I say, slow and steady. "Why are you sleeping in my backyard?" She stretches like she owns the sunrise. "Oh, it's just temporary. Emergency housing. The board approved short-term accommodations while my bathroom undergoes a feng shui realignment. It's in the bylaws, Section 9, Article B.3, Emergency Adjacency Clauses." I was 99% sure she made that clause up. The other 1%, reserved for HOA nonsense that actually sounds fake but somehow isn't. Emergency what now? She waves me off like I'm a fly at a wine tasting. "Just 3 days. You've got the best moonlight angles. I'll be a respectful guest." Respectful, I say, motioning to the tangled mess of cords and a solar-powered blender. "You're squatting next to my rain barrel like it's Burning Man for soccer moms." She giggles. Actually giggles. "I brought organic marshmallows," she says, holding up a resealable bag like it's a peace offering. I turn around and walk back inside because if I stayed, I was one tone violation away from a fine. 20 minutes later, Carl shows up with donuts, binoculars, and 2 lawn chairs. "This is better than daytime TV," he says, dropping into a chair. "Think she brought a latrine?" "Don't say latrine," I mutter. "It makes it real." But Carl was right. By noon, Karen had strung up solar lanterns, hung string lights from my pecan tree, and was hosting what she called a sun salutation sharing circle on a yoga mat made of recycled catalogs. 3 other HOA board members showed up. They brought kale smoothies. One of them, Brent, asked if he could borrow some hose water. "Only if you sign a waiver," I told him. That night, Karen lit a citronella candle and blasted ocean sounds from a Bluetooth speaker. My poor beagle Rufus thought we'd moved to the coast, started howling at invisible seagulls. I knew something had to be done, but not yet, because real revenge is not loud, it's not fast, it's timed. And the moment I saw Karen zip herself into that tent again, rollers in, retainer sparkling like a disco ball in the moonlight, That's when the idea hit. Terrible, beautiful, ridiculous idea. If Karen wanted wilderness, then wilderness she'd get. And the best part? I already had the costume. But trust me, this was just the beginning. Now before you judge me, just know, this plan was not born in sobriety. Carl and I were on my porch that night, me nursing a cold beer, him gnawing on a Slim Jim like it was a 5-star steak, watching the dim flicker of Karen's solar lanterns. It looked like she was running a miniature off-grid commune for entitled people. She seriously hung a dream catcher, Carl muttered, pointing with his beef stick. It's catching nightmares from your grass. That's when it hit me. The idea. The glorious, unhinged idea. See, years ago, don't ask how, I played a bear in our town's 4th of July parade. It involved a barbecue raffle, a rogue Baptist choir, and a tequila-drinking champion named Connie. The point is, I still had the costume. It was big. It was fuzzy. It was hotter than a sauna inside a baked potato. But under the right lighting. Terrifying. And Karen? Karen was snoozing in a polyester cocoon of smugness, believing she was one with nature. You still got that bear suit? Carl asked, reading my mind. Oh yeah, I said, grinning. It's hanging next to my busted chainsaw and that leaf blower I haven't used since 2017. Carl's eyes widened. Dave, we're about to become local legends. I waited until exactly 3:47 a.m. That's when her Bluetooth speaker finally stopped vomiting ocean sounds and switched to soft snoring. Even Rufus stopped howling and curled up at my boots like the waves had finally receded. I slipped into the garage, squeezed into the bear suit, hotter than sin and twice as fuzzy, and waddled out the side gate. Scene set. Karen's tent glowed like a paper lantern. Inside, her silhouette curled into the fetal position of suburban superiority. Outside, a mason jar labeled moon juice. I crept forward like a bear on a divine mission. And then, I let it rip. Her, a guttural, blood-curdling, from the guts roar. I shook the bushes. I clawed at the grass. I slammed both fuzzy paws on her folding table, launching essential oils into the night like floral grenades. And then, the tent exploded. Karen shrieked like someone set fire to a Pilates class. She unzipped the flap in a panic. Rollers bouncing, silk mask skewed. One crock on, one off, sprinting across my yard like her yoga pants were on fire. She tripped over a lawn gnome, screamed again. Behind her, gasped, chaos. The HOA clowns tumbled out like it was a funeral circus. Brent, he dove straight into the compost bin and emerged covered in kale, screaming about soil zombies. I roared one more time, then melted into the shadows like Bigfoot calling it a night. Rufus barked in approval. Honestly, I think he was clapping. Karen, halfway up my driveway, shrieking into her phone. There's a bear. A real bear. It ate my oils. Carl, legend that he is, was waiting on his porch in a bathrobe, phone already recording. I saw it, he shouted. Big fella, about 6'2". Theatrical flair. I waddled back around the house, peeled out of the suit in the garage, and strolled out the front door with a staged yawn. What's all the ruckus? I asked, rubbing my eyes. Karen spun around like a tornado of mascara and fury. A bear. There was a bear in your backyard. That's weird, I said. Usually just possums. She sputtered. Literally. Brent staggered out of the bushes tangled in solar lights, looking like a DIY ghost. It grunted at me. Might have been indigestion, Carl offered. You did eat 3 of those energy balls. Karen stomped toward me, cheeks flushed, voice shaking. This is a safety issue. You've got wild animals on your property. You mean besides the HOA members camping without consent? I said, tilting my head. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, like a fish regretting every choice it ever made. Then she hissed, "This isn't over." Snatching her clipboard from the grass like it was a sacred relic, she stormed off. Crocs squeaking, rollers flapping. But the best part? Carl leaned in and whispered, "Buddy, I think you just created the suburban boogeyman. I laughed so hard I nearly collapsed into the dahlias. But I should have known. Karen doesn't get mad. She gets organized. And that bear suit? It was just the beginning. If you thought Karen was going to take the whole bear incident lying down, bless your sweet, naive heart. By 8 a.m. the very next morning, I heard the shrill whine of an SUV outside. I peeked through my blinds, just in time to see Karen's white Lexus glide up like it was delivering vengeance with heated seats and seat memory. She burst out of the car like a woman on a mission from the petty gods. Power-walking sneakers, aggressive sun visor, and, of course, her sacred clipboard clutched like it contained nuclear launch codes. Behind her, Brent, still limping from the compost trauma, dragging a giant roll of orange unsafe zone, tape like a leash of shame. They didn't knock. Nope. They just entered my backyard like it was the HOA Club Med. Karen stomped 10 steps into the grass, spun on her heel, and pointed her pen toward my pecan tree. This area is now officially declared a wildlife risk zone, she proclaimed, loudly, as if the squirrels needed to hear it. Under Emergency HOA Clause Section 12, Subsection M, I am issuing a temporary occupation ban. I slid open the window. Karen, you're banning me from my own backyard? She looked up and gave me the tightest, most condescending smile known to mankind. The kind you give a toddler who's about to draw on your couch with a Sharpie. Until further notice, yes. Based on what? Recent animal activity. Multiple witnesses. We're still reviewing footage. What footage? She hesitated. Brent raised a shaky hand. I think. The bear made eye contact with me. It winked. Karen nodded solemnly. Like that sealed the deal. Now, I am many things, but tolerant of HOA hallucinations is not one of them. So I walked out, coffee in hand, calm as can be. Karen, unless that tent of yours gave birth to a bear cub overnight, you've got zero legal grounds to declare jack squat on my land. She raised her clipboard like it was the Ark of the Covenant. This is backed by Article D. I leaned over. Read it upside down. Karen, that's a brunch menu. Her cheeks turned the exact shade of pork that's been microwaved too long. Wrong clipboard, she snapped, diving into her giant purse like a bureaucratic magician and pulling out a backup. I didn't want to escalate, but I also wasn't going to let her LARP as HOA Judge Judy on my turf. So I pulled out my phone. Smile, I said, snapping a pic. That's going straight to the county office, with a note about trespassing, tape abuse, and wildlife zoning without jurisdiction. Brent squeaked. Karen's smile wobbled. You wouldn't dare. Karen? I said, dead serious. I once built a squirrel-sized Ferris wheel just to win a $5 bet. Try me. She opened her mouth, ready to launch another clause. But just then, Carl stepped outside wearing a barbecue apron that said, Hot Grills, Cold Justice. He held up tongs like he was about to cross-examine someone with steak. Need a witness? He grinned. Karen glared. Hard. This isn't over, she hissed, and stomped off. Crocs squeaking, orange tape dragging behind her like the world's saddest parade float. Brent tripped on it. Again. You'd think that would have been the end. You adorable optimist. Because Karen doesn't retreat. She regroups. That afternoon, I opened my mailbox to find a triple-stapled letter printed on pink paper, scented like passive aggression and whatever perfume she buys at Medler's Mart. It read, Scroll notice of non-compliance. Your property is now under temporary HOA wildlife supervision, pending a full environmental review due to recent undocumented animal presence. You are advised to cease all yard activity, especially hammock usage and suspicious costumed movement. Failure to comply may result in public censure at the next HOA meeting. With warm regards, Karen Whitmore, HOA President, Keeper of Order, Defender of Lawn Uniformity. Carl read it over my shoulder and whistled. She added a title. She's evolving. She's delusional, I muttered. But I'll admit it, it stung a little. She was trying to turn the neighborhood against me. Rumors were already flying. Ellen from across the street asked if I'd hired the bear for security. 3 kids offered me marshmallows for the bear god. Still, I kept my cool, because I had something Karen didn't. Security footage. And folks, it was gold. It showed her midnight glamping setup, and me walking around in pajama pants while the bear roared in the background. No cuts, no tricks, just suburban justice in glorious 1080p. So I did what any grown man would do. I uploaded it to the neighborhood Facebook group with the caption, "Breaking, backyard bear turns out to be fictional. HOA panic ensues." Attached was the clip of Karen shrieking and Brent rolling into the compost like a confused avocado. Within an hour, 112 comments, 47 laugh reacts, and one glorious Photoshop of Brent labeled, "Mulch Man." Karen didn't reply. She was probably too busy hyperventilating into a clipboard. But I knew this wasn't her final move. No, Karen was winding up. Because in suburban warfare, you never win in just 3 acts. And me? I was just getting warmed up. 3 days. That's how long Karen stayed silent after I posted the footage. 3 full days without drive-by glares, chalk markings near my fence, or unsolicited HOA bulletins shoved into my mailbox like passive-aggressive fortune cookies. Carl thought she'd given up. I knew better, because when Karen goes quiet, she's not retreating. She's loading. And when she plots, there's always lamination involved. And Comic Sans. Sure enough, on the 4th day, the storm hit. At exactly 6:59 a.m., something thunked onto my porch. I opened the door in my robe and found a gift basket, stuffed with chamomile tea, a stress ball shaped like a gnome, and a candle labeled Forest Tranquility. Taped to the front, a certified envelope. Inside, page facing up, official cease and desist letter. From the totally real and not at all made up Maple Glen HOA Behavior Compliance Committee. Signed, of course, Karen Whitmore. The accusations? Intentional misinformation regarding wildlife activity. Emotional distress caused to community leaders. And my personal favorite, weaponized costuming. I nearly dropped my coffee. She was seriously claiming I emotionally traumatized the HOA with a bear suit. Weaponized costuming. Carl read it and wheezed. That sounds like a punk band. We should start one. But the best part? The committee didn't exist. I had a hunch, so I texted Brent. Now, after the compost dive of 2024, Brent had been distant, haunted. He'd stopped responding to Karen's clipboard texts and even followed my lawnmower blog in quiet rebellion. So I texted, "Hey Brent, real quick, are you on the HOA Behavior Compliance Committee?" He replied instantly, "Is that what she's calling it now?" Boom, that was it. No more sitting back while Karen tried to annex my yard like some suburban Napoleon in yoga pants. It was time. Operation HOA Meltdown. Step 1, decorations. At midnight, Carl and I snuck into the yard like HOA ninjas. We planted 6 pink flamingos arranged in a ritual circle, a massive inflatable possum holding a sign, "Welcome home, Karen," and a motion sensor speaker that let out random bear growls every 90 seconds. Right on the property line. Bonus. A handmade wooden sign that read, "Warning, bear priestess at rest. Trespassers will be tickled with clipboards." Step 2, paper trail. I printed out my property deed, highlighted the part that said, "Not under HOA jurisdiction," and laminated it, out of respect for Karen's favorite medium. Then I duct-taped it to the flamingo facing her driveway. Step 3, the HOA showdown. Karen called an emergency HOA meeting that Friday night, probably to exile me, censure me, or accuse me of bear impersonation in front of a folding table tribunal. So I showed up, in a 3-piece suit, with a slideshow. She opened the meeting with a speech that sounded like it was stolen from a mid-budget courtroom drama. I stood up. "Before we continue," I said, "I'd like to share a few items for community transparency. Laptop, projector, boom. Slide 1, photo of Karen's tent. Caption, pop-up princess, when HOA power meets polyester. Slide 2, Security cam still of me waving in pajamas. Clear proof I wasn't the bear. Slide 3. Cease and desist letter. With weaponized costuming, highlighted in red Comic Sans. Laughter. Actual laughter. Even Frank, the guy who hadn't smiled since his mailbox got egged in 2014, snorted. Karen tried to interrupt. I kept going. A slide 4, a video of Brent confessing on camera that the Behavior Compliance Committee was 100% made up. With his permission. I'm petty, not evil. A slide 5, a photo of my laminated deed, flamingo guard in full glory. Then I ended with this. I'm not under HOA rule. I never was. But I believe in being a good neighbor. And if respect isn't mutual, maybe it's time for a new HOA president. Gasps. You could hear the sun visors tighten. Karen stood, flustered, cheeks pink, ready to defend her throne. But Brent raised his hand. I motion for a vote of no confidence. Carl from the back seconded. And just like that, the clipboard cracked. Karen was removed. Unanimous vote. She stormed out of the rec center, sun visor flopping in the wind, clipboard tucked under one arm like a broken wand from a dead bureaucracy. But oh, we weren't done yet, because the real fun, it was just getting started. The night Karen lost her HOA crown, it was the quietest Maple Hollow had been in 10 years. No more clipboards in mailboxes. No more pastel-colored courtesy violation, slips fluttering like bureaucratic confetti. No more 7 a.m. reminder knocks about grass length. She was dethroned, deposed, publicly uncrowned by the very neighbors she once ruled like a sunburnt dictator in yoga pants. And if you think she took her bruised ego and just walked away, bless your heart again. Because the very next morning, I spotted a new sign in her front yard. Not for sale. Not yard of the month. This one was different. Hand-painted, crooked, screwed into the ground like it was installed mid-tantrum. It read, Beware of Bear Man. Yes, seriously. Karen had officially turned me into a suburban cryptid. Later that week, the former HOA board met again. This time in Carl's garage. He renamed it the Freedom Bunker and decorated it with a folding table, 3 lawn chairs, and a framed photo of the flamingo summoning circle from the Bear Priestess prank. Frank, now acting HOA president, stood and cleared his throat. We need to reset. No more fake committees. No more Karen nonsense. Ideas? Carl raised his hand like a kid in civics class. I propose an HOA rebrand. New name, new vibe, less clipboard. Ellen from 2 doors down chimed in. Can we also change the snacks? Karen's cookies always tasted like regret and quinoa. Laughter erupted. Even Frank cracked a rare smile. All right then, open suggestions. Let's make this fun again. And that's how Maple Hollow HOA became the Mellow Hollow Neighborhood Circle. Voluntary, relaxed, 100% Karen-free. And Karen? She retreated into her 2-story colonial like a fallen general. Blinds drawn, yard fading into overgrown mystery. Her flamingo tape, gone. Her tent, vanished. But her paranoia, alive and thriving. She installed 2 Ring cameras, a motion sensor sprinkler that attacked joggers, and a sign that read, Do not trespass, property under federal surveillance. Even the squirrels stopped running through her lawn. Rumor was she'd been calling the city zoning office weekly, trying to reinstate emergency HOA powers. Another rumor? She tried to trademark Bear Man as a neighborhood security mascot. I can't confirm either, but I did notice she started leaving small plates of berries by her mailbox, like some kind of suburban offering to the bear. But here's the wildest part. Without Karen, the neighborhood got better. People laughed more. Kids rode bikes freely, no chalk line anxiety. Someone even set up a lending library by the park bench. Carl and I hosted a backyard barbecue. No HOA forms, no permits, just ribs, beer, and neighbors. Frank showed up in a t-shirt that said, Unleash the Bear. Ellen brought gnome-shaped cupcakes. Said they were therapeutic. Even Brent came by, still wary of compost bins but smiling. He introduced his new boyfriend, Todd. My emotional support witness, he said. And you know what? It was the most fun we'd had in years. No rules, no fines, just decent humans being decent. Go figure. Now don't get me wrong. Karen wasn't done. She was just regrouping. A few days later, we spotted it, a realtor sign in her front yard. At first, we thought it was a bluff. But then, the listing went live. Elegant 3-bedroom home with potential. Strong community. Recent history of wildlife sightings. Yes, she used bear sightings as a selling point. Ellen printed the listing and taped it to her fridge. Strong community, she scoffed. Girl, you tried to find my begonias. But the house? It sat on the market for weeks. Too much history. Too many rumors. At one point, someone added this to the Zillow Q&A section. Is it true Karen once slept in a tent here? It wasn't me. Okay. It might have been Carl. Eventually, she dropped the price. Twice. Then one morning, without warning. Silence. Blinds shut. No sprinkler hiss. No clip-clop of angry crocs. Karen was gone. No goodbye note. No dramatic exit. Just a moving truck. A puff of lavender-scented resentment. And the distant echo of every violation slip she ever filed. Someone said she moved to a gated community in Florida. Someone else claimed she joined an even stricter HOA in the next town. Me? I just waved from the porch as the U-Haul pulled away. Carl raised his coffee mug. Think she'll start a bear cult down there? I chuckled. If she does, I hope their squirrels are tougher than ours. We sat in silence for a while. Peaceful. Quiet. Just two guys, enjoying a Karen-free sunset. If you liked this story, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We also recommend listening to the story about how a Karen destroyed a guy's shed because of an aesthetic problem. So he moved all the animals to her yard. You should listen to it. Just click on the icon with your finger pointing at it. Thank you for watching.